They can't all be great. Here are 3 episodes of The Twilight Zone that really missed the mark. The Mighty Casey, Season 1, Episode 35. The Hoboken Zephyrs are a terrible baseball team. They're about to run out of money and have to shut down. Mouth McGarry is the manager of this Bad News Bears type of team, and he is approached by an inventor, Dr. Stillman. Dr. Stillman claims that he has created a robot that can do all sorts of amazing pitching that human beings can't do. Casey is able to throw super fast fastballs, super slow balls, and extreme curveballs that no one is able to actually hit. While he is pitching, during one game, Casey is hit by a ball, and he's hit so hard that he needs to have a doctor look at him. When the doctor examines him, he realizes that Casey is not even human, and therefore cannot continue to pitch for a human team. Soon after, Dr. Stillman gives Casey an artificial heart, but this heart also gives him a conscience, and he doesn't want to strike people out because he feels it can ruin these baseball players' careers, and he instead becomes a social worker. The Hoboken Zephyrs run now to their final season, and with a terrible record and low attendance, they have to close their doors. Dr. Stillman gives McGarry the blueprints for Casey.
Perhaps you'd like to keep Casey's blueprints. A little memento might cheer you up. Bye.
And when McGarry looks at the blueprints, he gets an idea. He tells Dr. Stillman his idea, and soon after, a team of people is suddenly in world championships and winning many games, and it's almost as if they have superhuman strength and abilities. His team has now become a team of robots who all have an unfair advantage. In researching the background to this Twilight Zone episode, I came to find that the original manager who played McGarry died the day after filming. So they had to find someone else and eventually asked Jack Warden, who was the main character Corey in the episode The Lonely, to play as the manager. So CBS didn't want to reshoot the entire episode, so Rod Serling had to dip into his own funds to pay Jack Warden and reshoot some sections of the episode. Having said all that, this is just a ridiculous episode. Most of the episodes that I cover on my channel have some sort of moral or lesson or twist that really makes you reflect on it after the episode is over. An episode like this, though, is very goofy. You can even see it in some of the scenes here.
That's his fastball.
I mean, I understand trying to make lighthearted episodes, but this is a sci-fi series that is supposed to have reflection and morals attached to the episodes. Things about people pushing themselves too far or doing things that they could never do before. And instead, this is all about a robot that becomes sort of human and then therefore becomes a social worker. I get that the joke is that the robot is becoming more human and the human element is to take care of other humans, but this just feels so out of place. Now, I do love the robot becoming human aspect. If you've seen my other episodes or if you've read my series, A Spark in the Ashes, you know that I like to talk about and think about how robots and humans can be interchanged or transformed, and I do really appreciate that. In other episodes, Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone as a whole does it really well. It just falls flat here, and I don't really appreciate the way that this episode unfolds over time. In fact, at the end, the manager, again, doesn't really learn anything. In fact, he goes the other way and creates an entire army of Caseys that is now going to be better than any baseball team in the league. What is that even teaching anyone? What is that even showing? We can just keep pushing and pushing until we get what we want? I mean, it would have been much better if the manager went to Stillman to get a robot to replace Casey that only did something terrible, like only beamed people in the head or only hurt people or something like that, to show that we shouldn't use robots to play in a human game. Instead, no one learns anything, and there's really no moral here. Mr. Dingle the Strong, Season 2, Episode 19. Mr. Dingle is a very scrawny, skinny guy who basically is getting abused all his life. He's constantly a loser, he's a vacuum salesman, and doesn't really have a lot going for him. Some Martian scientists come down and decide to do an experiment on a random human that they see, and Mr. Dingle fits the profile perfectly. They give him superhuman strength, and he does not realize that they've given him this because these Martians aren't seen by anyone. So not knowing where he got these powers from, because he still looks the same, Mr. Dingle is able to crack boulders, lift statues, and do these ridiculous feats of strength.
But I didn't know it was this light. Well,
And that gives him world-renowned fame. He's no longer a loser and is actually noticed by the world. Soon after, this two-headed Martian scientist returns to see how Mr. Dingle is doing, and it is very annoyed that Mr. Dingle is just using his newfound powers for fun and for fame. The Martian scientist takes away his strength, where just moments before he was a world-renowned superhuman. He is now the laughing stock of the world and a loser once again. As the Martian scientist is about to leave, two other observers from Venus want to come down and have their own experiment. The Martians recommend Mr. Dingle. The aliens from Venus also choose Mr. Dingle, and this time give him super intelligence. He is now thinking at a crazy amount of speed and is able to even predict future events based on how much his brain has grown intelligence-wise. So if you really look at the aliens that are portrayed here, they're really like uncomfortably awkward. The little people from Venus that have like, they're clearly children, but they have like mustaches and they just look very strange, but not in like a creepy or intriguing way, in my opinion at least. They come off really kind of just hokey and weird. The same thing with the Martian scientist, where obviously it is two people in one wide suit. I can normally say, okay, suspension of disbelief here. It's not really that important, and they had to work with a certain budget and special effects that were available to them at the time. But when you combine all of this, again, just like with the Mighty Casey, you combine the fact that it's a strange episode with no real moral or lesson here. It's not as though Mr. Dingle learned that he could have used his powers for good and instead used them for his own selfish need, so he just lost the powers. I think if the Martian scientist just took his powers away, and something happened tragically as a result, then I could probably buy more into it. Maybe at the end, the Venus aliens could have come down and sort of given him something to show that maybe there's a glimmer of hope there for him. But all it was exchanging super strength for super intelligence for a guy who is a loser and doesn't really have any sort of redeeming qualities. It just really was a weak episode in many ways. Now, some of you maybe like this episode, and that's fine. I think, our opinions are what make us human, and it would be great to hear what you think in the comments below. But this one just really didn't do it for me. And again, those Venus aliens are really uncomfortable. This character is played by Burgess Meredith, the one who was in Time Enough at Last. He was the coach for Rocky. He was the Penguin in Batman. I mean, this is a famous actor who was great in the time period. He was also in The Obsolete Man, the Twilight Zone episode about the librarian who is going to be executed for owning books. If you haven't seen that episode, that's my revenge video, and the Obsolete Man is featured there. But even Burgess Meredith couldn't save this episode because of its hokiness and the fact that no one really learns anything. Cavender is coming. Season 3, Episode 36. Harmon Cavender is an angel who is trying to get his wings, or else he will be in danger of a demotion. His human is Agnes Krepp, an awkward and clumsy woman who was just fired for being so clumsy. He needs to improve her life within 24 hours or be demoted. Agnes is riding the bus home when Cavender appears and tells her that he's her guardian angel. She obviously doesn't believe him, so in order to prove his power, he turns the bus into a horse and buggy, then into a convertible, and back into a bus.
whoops. I think I goofed. Well, back in the bus.
When she gets home, she finds Cavender on her couch, and she's talking with her neighbors and kids who sympathize with her awkward ways and being fired from her job. Cavender is now showering her with a lavish lifestyle of a mansion and lots of money. Rather than going bowling, she's now hosting a huge party. With such a quick lifestyle change, Agnes is not prepared for it. She's not ready for the high lifestyle and the way that people talk and the way that the men really dote on her. It's all very uncomfortable for her. Cavender, meanwhile, is just over there enjoying some drinks. The next day, Cavender wakes up on Agnes's couch and can't find her. He goes back to her old apartment and finds her there, where she tells him that she's uncomfortable with her new lifestyle. She just wants everything back the way it was.
This Okay, Miss Grepp, but I think you're making an awful mistake. Are you sure? Okay, here we go.
Upon seeing her old friends and her old life, she is clearly much more excited than she was in her rich life. Cavender realizes that money is not going to equate happiness. When Cavender returns to heaven, his boss is unhappy seeing the result of what he had tried to do. But when he looks down and sees Agnes happy, he realizes that even though Cavender didn't change her life in a material way, he has now done something good for her. Instead of getting a demotion, he is now going to help more deserving subjects. Cavender smokes a cigar and leaves to continue his work. So Agnes Krepp is played by Carol Burnett, and she is an amazing actress who has great comedic timing. This is right before the Carol Burnett show came out and blew up into the big show that it was. But she was becoming more famous at this point, moving from horse to buggy, back to convertible, back to bus, really was more about trying to show the viewer the special effects that the production team can create than it really was any real purpose. Similarly, the light sounding music and as similar with the other episodes like the slide whistles and corny special effects just really doesn't do it for me. This is my least favorite episode in the entire series because not only was nothing learned, an ongoing theme throughout these episodes today. There was no moral, there was no lesson. Agnes was just sort of a victim of circumstance. Cavender forced this life upon her, then realized that her old life is really what she wanted. But unlike other episodes in the Twilight Zone, Agnes never asked for any of this. A lot of times characters will ask for some change, or they will attempt some change, and maybe realize towards the end of the episode they didn't really want that in the long run at all. But here, everything is just kind of forced upon the main character, and it's really about the angel realizing that he's made a mistake. But again, there really is no punchline. No pun intended. There's no really hard-hitting understanding that the way that someone was acting or doing things needs to change before some terrible fate befalls them. These three episodes all share that common theme of being out of place with the Twilight Zone. Right before this episode is I Sing the Body Electric. Right after this episode is the changing of the guard. So this feels very out of place. Maybe they were trying to create an episode that had a little more levity between two darker episodes. So I will say that that's possible there. I'm sorry, Carol Burnett fans. I do love her, but I just don't love this episode. So there you have it with the three episodes of The Twilight Zone that just missed the mark for me. All three of them have the same themes. They have some comedic elements or attempts at comedic elements. They use those corny sound effects like slide whistles and things like that. They try some special effects to make things a little more engaging, but ultimately they end up feeling more like filler that don't really fit in the Twilight Zone. So were there any other episodes that fell flat for you? Comment down below. Was I completely wrong about these episodes? Tell me why. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.